Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this masterclass today. I think it's going to be very, very important for those of you who are attending because we're answering some of the critical questions that entrepreneurs ask. These are real questions by real entrepreneurs out there or people who would like to be entrepreneurs, and they're entering into this space, learning about or even considering, contemplating, and trying to grow themselves and their business. And so, as we start off today, I just kind of want to give you a little bit of a background in case you're new, you don't know who I am. My name is Jason Ellinger. I'm the CEO of Taika Translations and TVB Team, and we provide translation, editing, digital product solutions for people all around the world. And we've been working in this specific sphere for about 12, 14 years now. And I've been involved in entrepreneurial work for the past 20 plus years. And in all of that, I've learned a few lessons along the way. And this channel is about me sharing those lessons with you and making them available so that maybe you don't make some of the mistakes that I did earlier on that really made me just caused me to slow down, have a much more challenging road, or just simply not create the result I was after. And so behind the screens here, I have my trusty, amazing team member, Karina, and she is, as always, helping me to stay live and on the air, and I've got screens all over here, so I'm trying to make sure that I'm focusing at the right one as I start to talk about this stuff today. But um, questions are really important for us to ask because so many times we get into a bind, and sometimes we think that we just have in and up in ourselves that, oh my gosh, there's no answer to this question, or this question is a hard question that's unable to be answered, or too hard to be solved, or I don't know anybody in my life that could answer such a question. And in business, if there's one thing that I have learned, if you have the right people in your corner, if you have the right team in your corner, or the people that you can get advice from, then you can answer any question, no matter how tough it may seem. You might have to do some gathering of information. You might have to go out there and try to find and navigate through finding the right people to answer those questions. But if you're here and you have some questions about entrepreneurship or growing your business, or maybe some team member problems or leadership challenges, or should I fire this person, or should I hire this person, or how should I do this or that, please drop that in the comments and we will make sure to address it as we go through this session together. So I really appreciate you guys joining. Last week was an incredible session about team building and how to make sure that you're actually building a team and what is required in order to do that. And this session that just kind of ushered us into because we've already done about 11, I think 11 master classes on the series transitioning from manager to leader. This that kind of just ushered us into a point where it's like, okay, we need to answer some questions for some of these people because if you just go and don't answer any of the practical applicable things for people's lives, then you're also not going to be applicable. So we're going to turn the page a little bit, and in this session we're focusing solely on answering entrepreneurs questions, or people who would like, or small business owners, or people who would like to have a business, and that's what we're going to be doing during this session. So Karina, I do not see on my screen the first question, but if you could please pop that up on the screen, I would greatly appreciate that. So yes, thank you very, very much. I see it now. Looks great. Thank you, Karina. So, Arlene asks, "Hey everyone, a quick question. My husband and I started a business to help small business owners with bookkeeping, finances, especially the folks that have, that are working 24 hours a day and they don't have the time to keep up with all the work." Awesome. I really applaud you for that. There's thousands and thousands of businesses out there, Arlene, who have this exact challenge. And she said, "But I'm not sure where to find my clients. I'd love to connect with them. I'd I'd love to connect with them and share what we have to offer. I would appreciate any ideas." So this is like the quintessential question for, I mean, underneath it all, it's where do I find business? Like that is to sum up this question is like, where do I find my clients? And Arlene, this is a question that so many, like, even multi-billion-dollar companies, they invest millions and millions and millions of dollars every single year to answer the sub question under this one. It's like, where do I find my clients? So the answer to this question for us, because this is something, by the way, if you're new, if you don't know who I am, I do this stuff each and every day. Business and entrepreneurship is not simply a theory to me. It's something that I've been doing for 20 years, and I'm actually doing this in the moment. After this video, I will go into a meeting with a team member, or I'll go into a meeting with a marketing team, or I'll go into a meeting with my directors, whatever it is, and I actually go in and start having conversations with people around the issues that we're facing, our company is facing, and then work through driving to solutions or behavioral issues or drama or stuff going on in our organization. So don't think that I'm detached somehow from the answers to these questions. And I'm not laughing at you, Arlie, when I say that, that is the question that everyone wants to answer. But um the re it, the really good thing that I see in this question is that you have identified the people you want to help. And that's really, really important. But now we have to go and we have to do a few other things. We have to answer uh, what it is that they like. So, and you have to come up with these answers. Nobody else is going to give you those answers. Nobody else is going to answer it for you. You're going to have to do your own research and decide, okay, what it is these people like, and start pairing your brand with that. So whatever your company is, I don't, you can see a lot of really good example of this. I'm getting tongue tied here. Recently, we saw a really good example with Cracker Barrel when they tried to do a rebranding of their logo, right? And so they went on there and they changed their logo, and the whole nation was in an uproar about Cracker Barrel's logo because they hated what they did with it. Like, please go back to the old one because that's the one we like. And that's what I'm trying to kind of convey into you in that answer to this question is that you're going to have to find the things that your clients like. And you have to build a profile of each of these individuals. And then you have to go further and you have to answer the question, where do these people hang out? Okay. And so after you build the profile of this person, understanding who they are, what they like, and where do they hang out, and then you're going to have to put yourself in proximity to those people. They aren't just going to show up. They aren't just going to come to your website. They aren't just going to go to your funnels. You actually have to go be in proximity to these people and make sure that you can they can associate your brand with something that they like. That's why it's important for you to understand what they like, and then you can associate your brand with that thing that or that set of things or those things that they like. And then you can also make sure that you can get in front of them as you get in proximity to them. You will so that you actually get their attention, not just get in proximity and just kind of be anonymous, but you actually be in proximity to them. You're paired with what they like, and then you offer the service that they need. And don't try to sell services that they don't need, by the way, because if you try to sell services to people that don't need your service, you're just going to come across as really, really, really annoying. And so we never try to do that. We make sure that they have a need first, they actually understand what the product is and how you're going to solve it, and then you can actually go into helping them. So I hope that helps. And we're going to go on to the next question. Karina, if you could switch the slide. Thank you so much. Oh man, Chris asks, what is harder, running a business or raising kids, and why? I mean, if you could ask a more uh, charged question, I don't know if there is one because, especially for me, because I'm an entrepreneur, both an entrepreneur, small business owner, and I have a big family. For those of you who don't know, I have 8 kids. Me and my wife, we've been married for 16 years on the 12th of this month, and we have 8 kids, and we have a big, beautiful, happy family. Sometimes very noisy, and I deeply, deeply value the inner workings of a family. How it is to raise children, the character building and training, and also homeschool. So, I mean, this question is right up my alley. So, what do I think is harder, running a business or raising kids, and why? I honestly, I okay, on the kids aspect, man. Okay, so on the kids aspect, there is the much more intimate uh home type relationship. And then in the work type of relationship, you don't while you do have some level of intimacy with your team as far as vulnerability based trust and building a core team that really cares about what they do, and you care about them, and you show up at the hospital when they're hurt, or when they have, a new baby, and you deliver flowers, or you make sure that, one of your team members on their birthday, they were never wished happy birthday, and they're really sad about that, and so every birthday you get, you try to make sure that you wish them happy birthday and give them a special gift and stuff like that. Like, there are those kind of nuances in our businesses, and while there is that level of intimacy, that then the children level intimacy is kind of even further and deeper. And I think that's very important to acknowledge, because um, children, like, they have to carry on your character. Okay, they don't have to, but I mean, our goal as parents is to kind of, if we think having children in our family is a good thing, we should kind of want them to be sort of kind of like us. And like Dave Ramsey says, eventually learn to vote like us. Great. Maybe it won't always be the case, but I just mean that training children has that element that's a little bit more intimate than business. However, both of them are very, very, very challenging, and I don't think that you could say one is. I would say, if I had to pick one, if I must pick one, I would say raising kids is harder, because you have to become, the more children you have, the less selfish you must become. It's not an option. You will become more selfish, or you will become more selfless, or you will self-destruct. And so uh, that's what I would say about the raising kids part. And so if I had to pick one, I would say raising kids is harder, because of that aspect. So let's move on to the next question. Thanks for Chris for asking that. That's very special. So, all right, here we go. A leadership question. As a leader, how do you maintain clarity and focus during moments of uncertainty? This question is so valid for this year, because so many entrepreneurs, so many business owners that I've heard know that I know, and that I've been in the rooms with, or our team's been in the rooms with, have gone through some really struggling days. And I remember early this year, government being part of it, because our company is a government contracting company, and this a company was we were at a conference where there was about 40 other entrepreneurs in the space of government contracting, and they um, one of the larger contractors that did, I think he did about $100 million per year. He said, well, he stood up in the front and he was kind of going through his spiel, giving a presentation. It's like, so this year, our government contracting was decreased by 60%. And you're like, okay, he's $100 million company. That means $60 million less in sales. Like, if you had 100 million the year before and now you have 40, that's crazy. And so this question is so, um, and that was like a theme throughout the entire conference. So not only him, but multiple people in that room had the exact same situation. And my heart goes out to those business leaders that are leading through those challenges. But um, when you have to maintain clarity and focus during moments of uncertainty, that's like, I heard the definition of entrepreneurship. It's like moments of exhilaration and incredible hopes, followed by moments of deep despair and depression. And about every 45 minutes in your life, all day long, that's what entrepreneurship is like. You go from here to down here about 150 times every single day. Well, that's not been my exact experience. I can definitely appreciate that definition, because a lot of people, that is their experience, and hopefully, if you're tuned into this channel today, that we're helping you by the content that we're producing and the information that you're gathering from the broadcast, to actually be able to work through some of those. So, how to maintain clarity and focus during moments of uncertainty. The lack forward. You know what you're doing, and you have to know what you're doing and know why you're doing it. Um, if you're only doing business, or only doing the thing to make money, ultimately that is not going to be enough for you to be able to continue on when deep, deep cuts come into your life uncertainty, the challenges that you face are so painfully deep that you won't be able, that you aren't really sure if you're going to be able to weather the storm. Because if there's one thing that's sure in business is that you're just about a few months away from the next really hard challenge. If you're doing entrepreneurship and if you've been doing it for any longer period of time, you're a very short step away from the next big challenge you're going to face. And it's probably going to be harder than the previous one. And you're probably going to have to dig deeper to be able to solve it. However, because you have all of the experience that's brought you to this point, you're going to be able to work through it very successfully and very peacefully. So, maintaining focus, maintaining clarity and focus during moments of uncertainty is all about you being transparent. Knowing, I mean, first of all, going into it, knowing why you do this, and it has to be more than money. You have to have a vision greater than money. And if you want to know about vision and structuring your business for your company, you can go back and watch the videos. I've made that. I made master classes exactly on developing that for you and your business. So go back and watch that, and you'll be able to do that. And then, um, and then it's about being transparent and actually being clear about where you are, about where you want to go, and about the reality of today. There's a wonderful example that you can read in the book Good to Great. Jim Collins writes about it, and he talks about Admiral William Stockdale. James Bond Stockdale is his nickname. And he talked about being in the Hanoi Hilton and having to face the reality of the day that he was in a prisoner of war camp, subject to torture all all day long, many, many times throughout his 8-year stay, not knowing if he'd ever get out, not having the correct privileges that are supposed to be offered to prisoners of war. And um, during his stay there, he he said, like, I had to tell my other comrades that, look, we're probably not going to get out today. Like, we're not getting out today, so you're gonna have to deal with it. And one of in an interview one time, somebody asked him, "Well, who didn't make it out?" And he's like, "Well, that's easy. That's the optimists, the people that just said, well, we're gonna get out next week or next month, or we'll be out by Christmas." And then he said Christmas would come and go, and they'd still be there. And then like, okay, well, we're definitely going to be out by Easter for sure. Somebody's going to come and save us, and Easter would come and go, and they'd still be there. And he said by Thanksgiving, they were in such despair that they died of a broken heart. And he says that you can't help. So you can just kind of envision in your mind this great admiral, Navy admiral, admonishing the troops, like, guys, we're not going to be out by Christmas. Kind of sucks here, but just going to have to deal with it. And let's keep working. Let's keep moving forwards. Keep taking the next right step. One time during one of his worst torture sessions, because prior to that, he had developed an internal communication mechanism inside the prison where they could communicate using tappings and different types of sounds instead of words, because they weren't allowed to communicate by words. They communicated by tapping, and so they communicated. All the other prisoners were cleaning, mopping the prison territory. And he said as they were mopping it, they were tapping out the words "We love you, Stockdale," because how he taught them this communication mechanism before he went into that torture session. So my recommendation is that you be transparent. You know why you're doing the work that you do. You better have that answer. If you don't have that answer, you better create it real quick. And then that you'll be very, very transparent. And then you say, yeah, today sucks. The future is going to be better. Eventually, we're going to get there. But today, we have to deal with the reality of it. And maybe that means we have to rearrange our payroll, or maybe we have to let some team members go or go on furlough for a while because we simply can't make the cash flow to pay them. And those are painful decisions that entrepreneurs have to make. But when you're navigating uncertainty, you can't just not deal with the elephant in the room. You actually have to say, yeah, this really sucks. This really is super painful. And maintain faith that eventually that this is going to be either become one of the most defining moments of your life, and you're going to work through this and be stronger for it, or it's going to turn you in a trajectory that helps you to be better. So um, I think that that's a very important posture to maintain as a leader, to maintain that posture that no challenge is the death of you, is the death of your essence as a leader. You are in the position to lead during uncertainty. It's not for lack of certain. It's not when things are great that you're most valuable as a leader. It's when life sucks, when it's hard, when it's not, excuse me, when it's not clear to see the road ahead. You're there for that purpose, to say, guys, we're going through this. Here's the plan. It's really tough. We're going to get there eventually. And I don't know how long it's going to take, but we're in this together. So let's keep our heads down and keep moving forwards. And that's your job as a leader, and you can't skimp around it. So I just encourage you, that's how you get through really navigating those moments of uncertainty. Ryan, I hope that helps you, and that provides some clarity around that. All right, next question. For startups and businesses in general, how do founders manage periods when they're not getting income from it? Now, I know there's a lot of underwriting under this, but that's the gist of the question, is that, like, when you're starting your business, how do you live? So, Ryan, when you start your business, uh, most of the time, like most of the entrepreneurs that I know, they did it part-time while they were doing something else. They actually, they started their business and they were working, doing another job as they built their business. And for me, um, I transitioned out of another job. I had a little bit of money saved up, and I had a hope and a dream and a plan. And so we started on that little plan, hope and dream, and we're fortunate enough to scale it to a multi-million dollar company. But I will caveat that with this. We started early. We started 5 years prior, just with a tiny little boutique of a thing, to actually start doing, showing up in that space, in the space of translation. Way, way back, we started showing up in that space and doing work for people and creating a reputation. And little by little by little, that thing started to grow. And then there was a critical moment when we invested everything to explode the business. But what I will say to you on this question is that when you're doing a startup, um, it's going to, first of all, you need to know why you're doing it. Back to the vision, and I actually have a company called The Vision People for that very purpose, because it's so painful to start up a company and create that vision and charge forwards if you don't know what in the world you're in it for. And then know why you're doing it, and then you're gonna have to probably work a couple jobs until this thing gets up and running. And I know, as painful as that sound, that's how a lot of our entrepreneurs, we get started. And that's why so many of those entrepreneurs, you look back, you look at them in great, in awe, because they've gone through such deep sacrifice to create the company that exists that you and I see today. And so many of our companies in the entrepreneurial space have been created by great men and women who have made that sacrifice. And that's why it's so hard for us to, when people complain, like, oh man, I'm having such a hard time in this area. Sometimes, honestly, it's one of the things that I have to fake a little bit in leadership. It's like, I definitely need to have sympathy for this situation, but I feel it's so petty because we've worked through challenges that are so much freaking harder. And so, as a leader, you do develop that thick skin, but at the same time, you have to maintain that gentle spirit. But that's how we do it at first. We work our butts off to create a pile of cash, whatever it takes. And then we start doing that thing while we're still working. We don't just jump off the ledge and go do something. We start doing it while we're still working. We don't take lots of loads of debt. If you take loads of debt, you're exponentially increasing your chances of failure. Out of 10 businesses that start this year, nine of them are going to fail. Out of the one that's left, that one's probably not going to last 5 years. So, I mean, it's incredibly rare because people make the wrong decisions when they're starting up. But real entrepreneurs who have stood the test of time, they 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 work their butts off by working multiple jobs, saving up the cash, living on much less than they make, and they start that idea while they're still working. You don't get to go, well, I'm going to start my new startup and I'm going to work 8 hours a day and eventually I'm going to have a wonderful, beautiful business. No, you will not. Your business will fail. I guarantee it. Well, work shouldn't consume all of your life. Then don't do a startup because you're probably going to fail. The statistics are really against you. I'm not being pessimistic. I'm being very positive. It's if you don't work through and employ the correct principles starting up your business, you will fail. And that's why I created this channel. That's one of my biggest one of the my biggest inspirations for this channel is creating a place where people can learn the information that they need to know so that they give themselves the best possible chance of succeeding over time and that they actually give themselves that incredible chance of being able to implement those things that are required to be able to stand the test of time and those leadership elements as well as the planning and strategy. So that's what this channel is all about, and so I just want to share that kind of piece of experience with you, if you would, about that's how we start up most of our businesses. We work really hard while we're doing something else, and instead of working 8 hours a day for a period of 2 years, you're probably working 20 hours, 18, 20 hours a day. It's for real. I mean, that's no joke. That's probably what is required for you to be able to do a startup. You're like, well, it's not worth it. Then don't do it. Okay. I just it'd be better if you didn't start and then and later complain about, instead of starting and complaining as to why it didn't work when you're working only 8, maybe 10 hours a day. It's not going to work. You're going to have to do more. I appreciate some of the information going out from entrepreneurs in our space is what was required in order to succeed was vastly more than I understood it was at the beginning. And so often that is the case. So that kind of feeds into this exact question. What is required to succeed is probably vastly more than what you know is required. And if you're not willing to do that, then you better stop now because you're not going to be able to succeed over time. Now, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be real. It's tough to succeed in every sector of business. Every single one. They're overcrowded. It's always too many companies to provide service in that sphere. There's always nepotism. There's always preferential treatment. There's always people who have connections. There's always, 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 and there's those of us who succeed anyways. And so I just encourage you in that. Don't think that somehow there's a way around the initial sacrifice to start up the business. Now, I hope that was an encouragement, not a discouragement. That was my heart on the issue. I just want you to, I just kind of want to make sure that you're prepared for that, and if you're starting up a business, that you actually are just aware that's the sacrifice that you're probably going to have to make in order to prosper over time. So. Okay, next question. All right, have you ever outsourced software development for your business? There's another question from, looks like Ryan. Have I ever outsourced software development for my business? Well, we don't do software development. However, um, we do lots of other development and other types of projects and the facilitation of work that happens in the software development space, but but we don't do software development specifically. So have I ever outsourced it? No, I have not. But it says they're looking for somebody in the definition in the description says we're looking someone to get custom software developed. We don't have an in-house team. Have you ever done it before? Or did you have any negative experiences? And what we want to make sure we're not stepping into a minefield with this. At a minimum, let us know where the mines are. Oh my gosh. For this one, okay, I'm sorry, that's not Ryan, it's Evan's question. Evan, there's so many there's a lot of minefields in this area because while there are many, many incredible, incredible people all around the world that can do software development, you have to find the ones that are actually right for that specific area that you're developing software in and that can actually work with you. And I think some of the biggest minefields are selecting somebody simply based on somebody's recommendation, selecting somebody simply based on their CV or their resume, selecting somebody without only reviewing the technocratic or their qualifications, rather than actually how it is to work with this person. Because many times people try to work with software developers or other professionals in different fields, uh, and they don't take into consideration the fact that there are vastly different cultural systems. There are vastly different world views. Some people view honestly. Some people completely, they don't think that it matters that much. Some people can adhere to deadlines. Some people think that deadlines just a kind of an idea or a guideline to be ignored. Some people um, some people that they're going to just ghost you. And when the going gets tough, they're not going to be there. So there's a lot of minefields in that. And I think that you should not ignore the fact that you have to make sure that they're communicative, that they do have the skills, that you can follow up and find references, actually solid references, not just six of their friends that you can call up and ask them if they're any good. And then make sure that they actually you actually like them when you talk to them. They don't seem conceding down, talking down to you, or know-it-alls. They don't just feel like they're over-promising or just under communicative. All of those types of things. And I think that's one of the most important things when you're doing outsourcing for software development type work. So just be careful in that way, and you will be a lot better off. All right, guys. Next question. So, perfect perfect is the questioner on this one. How do you hire globally without paying crazy agency fees? This is an excellent question because my company hires people globally, and we help people hire people globally. And so you can actually reach out to our team to help you do this. I run a small company in the US. It's based in California. Yes, I definitely, the salaries there are insanely expensive. I definitely agree with you on that. We're looking forward to look overseas with our talent, but there's so much noise, tons of applicants. Yeah, that's a big problem. Honestly, it felt impossible to sort through it all ourselves. We also turned to some agencies like Somewhere. Is that an agency name? Somewhere? But they were charging 30% commission, around 30% commission fees, which doesn't make sense for scrappy early stage team like ours. Has anyone ever worked with agencies that are more affordable for global hiring? Would love to hear some recommendations. This is a great question because my company, I actually hire people globally. My translation company, if you can imagine, there's many different languages, and we translate all the languages in the world. And that means there are people all over the world in all of these countries where they have to translate or provide the service of translation. And so hiring globally is one of the big things that we started off way, way, way back when. And then moved in as we moved forward from translation to more implementation of cat tools, and we moved forward to video editing, and then we moved further into the 508 compliance and then government contracting space for providing digital services. We just had to find people all throughout the United States to do those services, and in other countries where the United States operates and has its operations. And so we've been doing this exact thing for years. So how do you hire globally? First for a small company, because we're a small company. So you define the position that you want. Okay, if you know very, very clearly what you want, because I mean, I see you mentioned an engineering. They'd like to add, you'd like to add a few more roles in engineering and sales. And for there are some things that you really need to be aware of, because you need to know who you're selling to and what those companies or organizations are going to like from your salespeople. And that's a really, really, really big thing, because not every company, not every culture around the world uh, can communicate to your clients that you want to be selling to the way that they need to be communicated with. And so, for example, for our government contracting space, we our salespeople are in the United States. They're Americans because we're American companies selling to American organizations, and they need American support. And so that is really, really important for our clients. So for you, first question you need to know is, who are you going to be hiring the salespeople for or the engineers for, and making sure that they're okay with the and they can easily work with the people that you're wanting to hire. And I know that sounds a little bit biased, or that sounds a little bit um, um like, well, you're just being preferential, but it's really not, because it's really about serving. It's about knowing your clients well enough to serve them well enough, and not put your salespeople in a bind because they can't sell to the people that you are setting them up to sell with. And so that's causing putting them in a complete failure, and like a failure cycle, because they're not going to be able to make those sales. And so that's why you have to be very careful while you're hiring people abroad, because there's lots of different opinions. There's different ways to sell. There's different ways to that people think about selling, and there's different people don't like to. Some people don't like to talk to people from certain nations. Just bear with me for a second. So if you have called an airline, one of the major airlines, and tried to work with them on working through a challenge in one of your bookings, and you call them and you can't understand what the person on the phone is saying. Now, if you have had the experience, if you've ever called an airline, you've probably had this experience. Like, you're listening, like you're trying to hear them, you're trying to understand, you can barely make out half of what they're saying. And that's a really good example of poor hiring abroad. Okay, because there's plenty of places where you can actually hire abroad, and they'll do an excellent job communicating. So, all right. So first of all, know who you want, know who you're selling to, or who you're going to be working with, and then uh, I the 30% commission of fees. I mean 30% commission on what? Is that on their salary, their first year salary? Typically, there is an upfront cost to do the headhunting and searching, the interview processing, and then the matchmaking with your organization. So, I mean, I don't think that if you're afraid to make any investment whatsoever in the relationship, then you probably just don't need to hire abroad. But if you're serious about making an investment in an incredible team member and hiring abroad, then it's going to take, first of all, your time, a little bit of money, and a lot of clarity, and definitely a lot of interviews and conversation. And so, because I've done this many, many times over the past 16 years of working in international relations, um, I can tell you that those are all mandatory every single time. And so that's how you do it. And I don't think that you have to pay crazy agency fees, but I do think that you have to work with professionals that can help you navigate the landmines. Because if you just try to go at it alone, I mean, when I first did it, I made so many mistakes. Um, and it took me about 5 years before I actually got good at it. So by this time, I mean, if you just leveraging, if you just think about it, any money that you pay, even if it's $5,000 to actually help get somebody onboarded and get them integrated into your company, it's worth it if they're actually in a great fit. Now, there are lots and lots of companies that just got like hire a remote team member immediately in like 24 hours, hire a remote employee. That kind of makes me sick to my stomach, because I know that most likely that relationship is not going to work out, and all of that upfront marketing while they got them in the door cause their client pain, because over time that relationship will work. Because when you're working with people, it's about a long-term relationship. You're talking about hiring somebody for a long-term deal. And if you're going to do that, then they have to have the character required to be able to be an actual team member. And to be able to do that, you have to actually go through the process of hiring really, really well. And so that's why our company started to provide this service to people, because we found that they were having such problems with it, and we could create that solution because we've been doing this for many, many years, and we've gotten really, really good at it. And so people can contact us and they say, "Hey, I need this type of position, doing this type of work. Can you help us?" We're like, "Yeah, we can do that, and we can find somebody that's just right for you, that'll work for your organization." So I wouldn't balk or at having to pay a little bit of front money if they're actually a good and reputable agency that's going to keep you from making that, having to redo this exact same process 6 months down the road when you're unhappy with a great team member. So just be very careful that you don't work with somebody that's ridiculously cheap and like, yeah, we can do this. We'll find you somebody in 24 hours, and yeah, and they'll be working right away. It's like, this takes time. You don't get to go around. You actually have to do the work, and it does cost a little money to be able to get the right people in the right positions doing the right work. So I hope that helps you. Let's move to the next question. Anyone does any so Roe writes, does anyone else feel like they accidentally became a babysitter instead of a leader? How do you get your team to own their stuff? I started a business to build something meaningful, but somehow I've become the person everyone runs to for every little decision. It's like being a parent of a bunch of grown adults. They won't make a move without checking with me first. Has anyone else been stuck in this management trap? How do you shift from being the go-to person for everything to actually having a team that takes ownership? I'm looking for some real world stories, not textbook answers here. Well, that's what you get on my channel, is real world stories and real world advice, because um, if you're having to be a babysitter instead of an actual leader, I think it's important to actually maybe delineate what, if you don't want to lead, if you don't want to do what is required to lead, that could be part of the problem here. But I'm going to kind of like set that to the side, because first and foremost, when I look at a challenge on a team, I definitely look towards the leader. Now, leaders are noble, they're hardworking, and of course, they make a lot of mistakes too. But I'm definitely going to look at the leader first to be like, okay, what quality of leader do we have to work that's working with this team? And if the leader's just there complaining about their team all the time, um, it's very unlikely that it's actually the team. Now, it could be systemic, meaning you don't hire well, you don't have a clarity in their roles, you haven't given them their key result areas and key performance indicators. You don't do weekly one-on-ones to go through and follow up with and you don't have a cascading. You don't have each leader at their level carrying out those one-on-ones faithfully with their team members, teaching them week after week after week, growing them with your company. Like that work, if you're not doing that work, then it's likely you're going to become a babysitter. But I'm the CEO of a multi-million dollar organization, and I'm definitely not a babysitter at all, because I've trained my team and I've implemented the systems into our work processes to make sure that our team knows how to make decisions. My team spends millions of dollars without ever asking me for permission. And that's kind of scary to think about. Like, what? Yeah, but I had to train them exactly how to do that for many years until we got to the point, okay, they got it. Now they go forward and do that. And now the next level of leaders, they're trained on how to do that. Now the next level of leaders, they're trained on how to carry out the systems to make sure that their team knows what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, how they're supposed to do it. They have all the tools necessary to carry out their work. I think most likely, Ro, that it's it's probably, since you started out doing something meaningful and you care deeply about the work that you do, you fit into the case of a lot of entrepreneurs out there that simply, they don't they start out to do the thing that's meaningful, and they're really good at it, but they don't quite have the systems in place to support that very meaningful effort, that very meaningful endeavor. And so that's why I teach what I teach, to help people build those systems into their companies, into their operations, so that you can be very successful as you operate in your space. And so going. I think that's a lot of the content from growing from manager to leader. That's, if you go back and watch the 11 master classes that I've done on actually transitioning from manager to leader, not just focusing on the day to day or just focusing on the task oriented, actually getting stuff done, but actually growing your team, and making sure that there's a system in place that works over time, that causes you not to be the go-to person anymore. That where you've delegated so many things off of your place to where it's almost like you're irrelevant in some senses, and that's a very good point to be. But then you have to find out where you're most important for you to redeploy. And so that's part of your work right now, is to teach your team how to do the weekly one-on-ones, how to make sure they have clarity in their roles, and make sure that you don't have a bunch of children running around asking you for directions. Because if everybody's coming to you all the time asking you for permission, it probably means that they don't feel like they have permission to do stuff. So there's a book out there called Permission to Screw Up. Sometimes you have to give your team permission to be able to screw up, so that they can actually be successful in some areas. Okay. Um, Henry Ford said it. He said, those who those who don't make mistakes work for those of us who do. And that kind of comes out in this question by that in the way that, um, if you don't teach your team well enough to do the work that they need to do, then they're going to be coming to you nonstop for all the answers. And if they have to, you're going to gum up the works of your organization. And you're just like Moses in the Old Testament did. He tried to lead the nation of Israel, and there were millions of people, and he was trying to judge the whole nation. And his father-in-law came over and he said, "Hey, nut, you can't do that. You've got to set a bunch of leaders up who can handle this for you. Like, set leaders of tens and of hundreds and of thousands, so that they can rule over these. And those top leaders, of course, they're going to answer to you, and they're going to bring all the hard cases to you, but everything else your leaders are going to take and run with." So I would just really encourage you to develop your leaders and start implementing systems that help you to be able to not do that. And so the number one system that you really need to implement right now are weekly one-on-ones. And if you need to know how to do weekly one-on-ones, go watch the video, the masterclass video, or I actually made a video outside of the masterclass as well on doing amazing one-on-ones with your team. It'll change your life. It will help you sleep better at night, and will help you eliminate this babysitter stuff that's going on in your organization. All right, next question. My partner's small business is making him distant. How can I help him? You know, um, I don't know, um, your specific situation, Allie, but I think kind of like the last question, it could go two ways. It could be that you're used to a reality, and you guys entered into this reality of small business, and you just didn't realize that it was going to take vastly more than you expected to get it up and running. And because you guys weren't clear about that going into it, the expectation was, we're going to kind of go into it. He's going to work 8, maybe 10 hours a day. We're going to start making money. Things are going to start working, and we're going to start the income, and we're going to be able to continue everything as we had it. And the reality is, he's probably, or she, I don't know if it's he or she, they could be scared to death. I mean, when you if they're not working, and all of your household income is relying on the decisions and the work that they do, he could be scared to death that you're going to fail. Maybe he's not, or she is not sharing that with you. And maybe you don't realize that, but or that maybe he's trying to keep you from feeling that. And while that's a very noble thing to do, and while that's very kind, it also creates a situation like this, when we have people who who had certain expectations, and those expectations are completely not met. And now all of a sudden we have challenges at home. And so the solution to this one is you guys getting together, and you pulling your partner aside, and saying, like, "Hey, I really need to, sit down with you to really understand what we want to paint a picture of what the next 6 months looks like for us, in our home, in our business, because I'm struggling with this, because you keeping your feelings from him, uh, is not uh, is not very helpful either. You being transparent and clear about what you're facing, The lack of phone calls, lack of messages, lack of efforts, barely seeing each other, conversations, being about work. I mean, that's his or her world right now. Like, that's everything. And the fact that they're actually communicating about the work is really, really important. If they weren't saying anything at all, that would be worse. No small acts of love or affection. That might be the season. I mean, you're like, oh my gosh, you're so mean. Look, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur in entrepreneurial space for 20 years, 20 more than 20 years, honestly, if you count all the stuff I did as I was before I went to college. And there's seasons when it's freaking hard and there's very little energy for anything else but making sure the thing doesn't die and getting to the point where you actually can enjoy some of the more the finer moments or the more relaxing moments or the more moments of affection. I think that it's very important to talk about it. I think you guys should discuss how you're feeling. I think you should go over how your work how you would like to see things in the future. But I don't want you to come down on him or her too hard because that initial stage of business, that first 2 years, is kind of like a living hell for lots and lots of people because it's very, very challenging and painful as you work through it. And just to have somebody like you who's supporting him through that time is incredibly valuable. So I would encourage you, just don't, be nagging on him. At the same time, I think it's probably the right time for you and him to like step aside and be like, okay, you know, let's go out let's not do something crazy expensive. Let's just kind of go on a walk through a local park and sit on a park bench and discuss what we want our relationship to look like and how we want it to feel. And then and just kind of open up to him about the things that you're feeling and the things that you've seen, and and that will help you kind of connect and kind of get back on the right track. So I hope that's very helpful for you, and uh, I hope that you guys succeed incredibly in this business, and that that this, just being transparent and actually having that meeting of transparency, not just being afraid to be nagging, but actually like bringing your concerns to him, and but not in a nagging way, in an actual supportive, encouraging way, instead of maybe a solution driven way, and not just like, well, you're never buying me flowers anymore, and I'm just really sad about that. Well, maybe he hasn't thought about it. Maybe he hasn't, he's probably been, or he could have been so tied up in all the work that he can't even think that far. He's like, man, I have to pay my team and I barely have enough money. And I mean, I don't know what he's facing, but it could be those types of things. So I just want to encourage you that it's often for a season, and that your role is to be as encouraging as possible and provide transparency and maybe shine a light on that area very kindly and carefully to help see, like, okay, this is not the condition we want to stay in. Would like to get to this condition. Is that likely sometime in the future? And maybe she's like, well, that's a kind of a bit of a challenge, but maybe you could help me do these things. Could you help me do these things, and we could spend more time together? That may be a great opportunity. And then you can help him do whatever it is that you guys do. So hopefully that's helpful. Next question. Advice needed on hiring a sales rep. First time. Based in England, small family owned business, and we're currently establishing with a brand, website, and all this other really cool branding. Would like to hire someone on commission who ideally has some experience with luxury products in home furnishing area, but this is not necessary. It's more important that they're a good salesperson. I like you already. We'll call you Adam. And the idea would be that they represent us when contacting, for example, interior designers or other large businesses to ask if they would consider working with us and stocking our product. This is my first time attempting to hire someone for the business, altogether. Oh, wow. So, can anyone advise on what I should be considering or looking for? I'm currently contacting agencies that advertise commission-based sales rep jobs, but what sort of commission should we offer? Would 10% per sale be adequate? I also don't know whether we should hire full or part-time and what base salaries should look like. What? I thought you were hiring a commission person. I'm completely new at this, so any pointers, advice, or on to pitfalls to think about would be greatly appreciated. So, if I were you, Adam, I would hire this person with a because product's not proven. you don't know what the market is. You don't know how hard it's going to be able to make these sales. Unless I mean, unless you do have a lot of history with that, and you do have an incredible training program for that, and you know exactly how your marketing is going to go. I would start with a retainer, a monthly retainer, where you pay them, you know, a sum of money every single month. That's like to what they so that they can actually survive and live while they start drumming up their book of business. So um, the thing is, if you're going to be hiring someone, let's see, did they say they're where is this person going to be on? Okay, based on their responsible for selling a brand website. It's my first time in this interest. Oh, okay, so this is actually going to be a real team member in house probably for their job. So I, you're just using two terminologies here that is kind of confusing me, which is why I'm like a little bit taken aback. But um, if you're going to do commission based only, there's commission only salespeople, which typically come in selling a really great item with a good margin, and they can and the market's tested, and and you have a really great system for making sales in that market, and so they can come in and they can start making money. I don't know if that's the case for you. If it is, great, then you can do the commission based sales. But if you're actually going to do the base salary plus commission, then you can work it that way. But um, I 10% sh- might be adequate if you put a base salary. It just depends on your product, how much you're selling, how much volume they could sell per month. Just think about that for a moment. Can the person with the base salary plus a commission based on your forecast of what they should be able to sell month to month based on the history? I mean, if you have a small family business and you've owned it till this point, you have some data. So how much should they be able to sell? So based off of that, plus the amount that they're going to make off commissions, how much they're going to make. Are they going to be able to make enough to provide the salary that a salesperson in your area would expect? That's kind of how you answer that question. So you have a base salary plus the forecast of how much you think they're going to sell every month and how much profit that should bring. I'm sorry, how much commission that should bring, and then you can calculate your salary for that. So Um, the only other thing I would say, and I appreciate that you mentioned that it's more important that they are a good salesperson. Um, that it kind of leans towards the importance of the person being a very, very good doer of this work, because there's a lot of people who advertise that they're salespeople that they're really, really bad. In fact, it's probably one of the biggest areas that you see a lot of churn in. Churn, just like people hiring and them not making it, and they leave and you get new people. So um, so I would say that hire somebody who's humble, hungry, and smart, who has a history of selling. After you've done those calculations around the salary and you have that really good idea what those are, then you can actually go into having those conversations with with the right people and making sure that you're advertising to the right people. Put enough information in your advertisement so people can self-exclude if they don't fit what your idea is for this role. Also, make sure that you're being realistic about the role. What do the salespeople in your area that sells something similar? You're not the only one in your area that sells some kind of luxury home furnishing products. So, what do people in your area who do something similar make for that role? And then start advertising around that level, because otherwise you're going to get the bottom of the barrel, and you're definitely not going to attract anyone who's going to promote your brand the way you want to promote it, Adam. So I would just encourage you to do that. All right, guys, let's get to the next question. Should I fire this employee? Wow. Just straight up, should I fire this employee? I brought on a new salesperson. Again, about a salesperson. See, I told you, salesperson in the sales area, there's a lot of churn if you don't have great leadership. I brought on a new salesperson about a month ago. A few issues are stacking up. They stopped using the company laptop. We have a clear policy for this. They haven't been using the tools. They have been late. Their efforts seem way below the rest of the team. I also suspect they might be working another job. It's still early, but I'm leaning towards ending things quickly. For other entrepreneurs, would you cut ties now for policy violations? or give them time and coaching? To be honest, okay, I'm just going to be straight up. I don't think you're leading well in this situation. Like, if these things are all reality, you're not doing your job as a leader. My leaders in my company know if any one of these would start happening, they would be dealt with immediately. And I think that's more important than anything in this question, because you can't complain about all of these things being a reality. And if you haven't addressed them all and dealt with them effectively, and they're still being a reality, then of course you move towards the policy violation and helping them exit from your organization. But what I see more than anything is a leader that has not dealt with problems. And so many leaders fall into this category. And it's one of the reasons I teach this, I hold these master courses and I do these webinars, master class, and answer these questions online because this leader, if any of my leaders would come to me that with with this exact question, I would say, look there, Mr. Leader. This is more about you leading poorly than about them not following. Because if you have a clear policy and nobody's holding them to the bar, I mean, that would happen once or twice. Um, and then either they get to choose to exit or we help them exit, because this is not, you don't just make policies and rules and regulations in your organization and allow anyone and everyone to do whatever they want. That's not the way rules and regulations work. That's not the way company visions, values, and missions are. It's not optional. And and most of the time it's poor leadership that's not holding the bar. And so I wouldn't allow my leader come to me and say, well, this is all the problems with this team member, I want to fire them. No. It means if there are that many problems, and some of these are pretty bad, it means you're being a terrible leader. I'm talking to my own leader, I'm not talking to you. And so you need to fix that. And so I would coach my leader on how to do better, because they're going to have to go back to holding their one-on-ones. I mean, are they having their one-on-ones? Have they clearly communicated to the team member? Have they clearly communicated that this exact behavior is not allowed and it cannot happen? And if it happens, you cannot stay here. Have they done all of those things? If not, then it's the leader's fault. And we have to go back to leadership and transform our leadership team to do better. And so I would not fire this employee. I would I would either have my leadership do better, create a new system of leading well, and then I would consider whether or not this team member needs to be fired. So it seems like this trying person is trying to sell, yes, I need to fire firing this employee, but too many times I've seen people do that when in fact they were leading poorly. So I think this is evidence of that. Okay, next question. Starting a small business. Maybe this isn't the right place for it, but I was struggling to find the right place for it. I've been thinking to start a small business. Not right now in the current economic conditions. Don't know what that means, but certainly starting to really like the idea uh, seriously for the future in the form of a bookstore slash cafe. I've been reading some articles. Most of them are dry, clinical, and unhelpful. So for people who've done this, I have to ask, how do you navigate the first couple of years without a huge amount of money already saved up? I kind of answered this question before, but basically, if you don't have a large amount of money saved up, then you're going to have to start small, and you're going to have to work while you do it. You're going to have to do another job that actually produces income while you grow this small thing. And you're like, well, how in the world did I do that? Well, you might have to save up the money so that you can actually rent, so that you can actually rent a place to open your coffee shop or cafe. Or a lot of these coffee shop places, they've started in um, what do they call them? The trailers. The trailers that they have. Man, I people are making millions and millions of dollars. They open a trailer, they sell coffee, and all of a sudden, that's all they do. They pop open the doors on their trailer, set it up in a nice place that's convenient for people to stop by, and boom, they already have a small coffee shop. So my point is, it might not be the exact thing you want at first. It may be a version of that or a deviation, but that may be what you can afford, what you can start with, and what will create the profit to be able to help you open that long-term vision, that long-term dream. So don't think that you have to start with this big multi-million dollar store. You might just start in a really nice spot in a nice area where it's very convenient for people in a very small building that looks nice, that has some really cool painting on it, and has some really cool home kind of style coffee designs on it that people really like. And then maybe over time you keep expanding that into where you can actually and working within your what you can afford. So that's my biggest recommendation to you is don't jump straight to this big huge thing. Start small and scale. Start small and scale with what you can afford. All right, next question. Last question. Okay, getting constant website traffic is tough. I've looked at tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, and Baby Love Growth for help. What is the question? What is the question? What is the exact question there, Karina? I see you posted in the chat, but I'm not exactly sure what we're trying to answer. So, how to get traffic? Okay, so how to get traffic for your business? That's a big question. I mean, that's a golden question that every business on earth wants to have answered. Um, that question is answered from a few different ways because uh, I don't know where this person currently is. Like, if they already have a website, if they have sales funnels, if they have branding, brand guides, are they using are they using SEMrush? Do they actually no, they're not. They've looked into it. They're not actually using it. So Baby Love Growth, like they're not actually using those tools. Do they have a system set up for gathering emails? Are they currently contacting all of their clients and having them on a continual basis where they're creating referrals? Do they have a referral program? Um, do they have outbound sales calling and emailing going? Do they know where their clients are or who their clients are? Do they know where their clients spend the time? What platform their clients spend time? Is it Facebook? Is it Netflix? Is it TikTok? Is it Netflix? I mean, Instagram is what I meant to say. Like, which platform do most of their clients spend time on? And I think that's more important about the traffic because you need to know who in the world it is you're marketing to because you don't just want to get any traffic from everyone all over the world. There's billions of people and most of them aren't going to buy your product. So if you want to get the right product, you have to start with knowing who you want, where they hang out, who you want to come to your website, who needs your stuff, what they like, where they hang out, pair yourself with those things, and then start creating your branding and all of your online presence around that. That way, when people associate with you, they associate with something that they like. And by the way, you sell something they need. And that starts to create organic traffic. And so um, that's how you start to get great traffic because you can start developing you ultimately you have to develop a content creation plan around um, what your clients want and the things that your clients like and the things that helps your client and the things that's why you see so many commercials that here's a prime example. I think it was it Bud Light or Bush? I think it was Bud Light. They paired with somebody, I'm not going to say exactly who, but it was exactly opposite of what their client base wanted, and it just froze their sales. And I think they even fired their CEO because they paired their brand with something their clients despised. And when they did that, it dropped their sales and they lost millions and millions and millions of dollars. And it severely hurt their company. So, on the other side, you find out what your clients like and then start pairing yourself with that stuff and focus all of your branding around that. Don't focus all the branding around you, focus all your branding and all the content creation around them and what they want, and they will start coming your direction. So definitely use SEMrush if you know how to run it and operate it. Don't just initiate it and use it because you think somebody said that it should be good. Actually have a professional and they're helping you, and make sure that you don't just try to start using stuff without knowledge because you can spend a lot of time using stuff that does you absolutely no good because you're not very effective in using that. In fact, I have people on our team that actually use some of these softwares to help us to scale our company and drive leads. And I don't use it because I would be very ineffective. So I just encourage you to try to make sure that you have, if you are using some of these tools, make sure that you know, make sure you have somebody on your team who knows what they're doing. All right. So we don't have any more questions at this moment in time, and it's been a really great session, kind of long, but I hope it's been very valuable to you. And if it has, I would really, really appreciate it if you would like our channel, that you would subscribe or like the videos, subscribe to the channel, and that you would post a comment below on something that was very meaningful to you in this video or something that you could take away from it and utilize in your space. So thanks again. And I look forward to seeing you next week as we charge through more of this entrepreneurial space, going from manager to leader, and actually creating that new reality that we're looking for. So, guys, join me next week on Wednesday. I really look forward to seeing you. Thank you for spending time with me today. And I hope something from the answers to these questions really helped you in a very special way. If it did, drop a comment below. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.